about. Then what are the recent enhancements which are done, followed by a demo, and then the question and answers. Let's discuss about the overview. What is the product? The automation console is the newer console which is built on top of the server automation. The objective of this console is to have three primary use cases. One is vulnerability management, second is patching, and the third one is compliance. The the last release which we built was mostly focused around the vulnerability management use cases, where the tagging, exception management was primarily developed for vulnerability and then extended to the patching as well. We will look at some of these features into details in the detail slide and the demo, and the upcoming slide upcoming features which you can expect from this product is the compliance. So overall, this is going to be a web interface for the operators of TrueSight server automation, and later it will be extended to the other endpoint managers. The tool will be used as a web interface and can be consumed as a subscription model, as a service, and also as on-prem deployment, which is a container-based deployment. Let's look at one of the important feature which has been added. So the first one is there are thousands of vulnerabilities which are being identified every day. I do not care about all of them. I do not know the remediation for all of them, and not all servers which are being scanned by the tool are important to me. Also, there are false positives which are being identified by the scanners like Qualys, Nessus, Rapid7. What do I do with that? You can add an exception for such vulnerabilities. So all you would do is go to an admin, create an exception with a start date and end date. Optionally, you can specify the change request ID and the owner for that exception. And once done, nobody will be able to remediate that vulnerability. Nobody will be able to create an operation on top of that, because that's part of an exception. So if you really get worried because there are so many false positives in your environment, like out of 1,000, there are only 200 which I can really remediate, and 800 are of no use and they are just creating noise in my environment, exception would be the right place to start and create the exceptions. Only admins can create the exceptions, and operators can look at those exceptions. So not anybody and everybody can come and create an exception in your environment without any approval. Only admins will have the right. So if somebody says that I cannot remediate that, the admin will go ahead and create an exception for a predefined time if it's a valid vulnerability. But the remediation, say patch is going to be available in the next month, or the patch cycle is in the next month. So I do not really want to see that as an actionable vulnerability for the next 1 month. I would create an exception for a month, and after that it will start appearing on the dashboard. It will be counted as an actionable vulnerability, and user will create an operation after that. The next one is enriching risk and assets with a custom tag. Another problem which a lot of users have observed is prioritizing the vulnerabilities based on the business context. For example, a server which is in a dev environment has less priority compared to the one which is in production environment. But how do I know that this asset is in development and the other one is in production? So now you can create the custom tags, and the tag name could be anything. It could be location, it could be environment, it could be owner, and you can assign these tags to assets as well as vulnerabilities and patch instances. So for example, there is one vulnerability, but for Windows assets, it's been remediated by user A, and for Linux assets, it's been remediated by user B. You can assign different owners to the same vulnerability on different asset, and this is called vulnerability instance. Vulnerability instance is the same vulnerability but on two different assets. Then each vulnerability and asset combination will be called vulnerability instance. So with the tagging capability, you can assign tags to the assets, which are called asset tags, and also to the vulnerabilities and the patch instances, which are called vulnerability tags. So if you want to take the data for this information, let's say from Tenable saying VPR, which is their vulnerability risk score, or there is a parameter like that. If you want to consider that as your criteria for identifying which are my priority set of vulnerabilities, you can use the tags for doing that. There are out of the box property which are also going to be available, which are available now are risk owner and risk score and SLA. So if you don't want to define a global level SLA for all the vulnerabilities or patch instances, you would like to define at per vulnerability level or per patch instance level, you can override that with the out-of-the-box property called SLA. So you can define the SLA at the vulnerability level, also at the patch level. And that value will override the global SLA value. Similarly, the risk owner, like I gave in the example, the user A and user B working on the same vulnerability, but different set of asset can have a different owner. This is again an out-of-the-box property which can be used. The risk score, the default value of the risk score is the severity of the vulnerability or patch. But if you want to override with your customized value based on the logic, let's say it's whether it's exploitable or not, whether it's my affecting production environment or not, whether I have the remediation available for that or not. So all these capabilities, if you would like to create a custom logic and provide a custom score, risk score would be the property which you would be using for that. On top of that, you can add all your custom properties which you would like to use. There is an API available which can be used if you would like to do bulk updates. So you might be having 10,000 vulnerabilities on your environment. It is not possible to manually assign the vulnerabilities to this 10,000, manually assign the tags to this 10,000 vulnerabilities. So what you would do is you will define a rule at the API level. Let's say if the severity is 5 and if the owner is let's say Sumit, then the VPR score is 100. So you can do that. So you can define the custom tags, you can define the location, and you can create the custom tags and assign the properties in one go using the APIs. We are going to look at this demo in few minutes. The next one is actionable dashboard. Objective is to as I log into the system every day, I know I'm the owner for as I log into the system, I know I'm the owner for say 10 vulnerabilities, or in this case 16 vulnerabilities. I'll filter the data based on the risk owner, and so now I know I'm responsible for remediating 16 vulnerabilities today. Also, if I want to split it across, I will split it, say severity 5 and risk owner equals to Meeta and the operating system equals to Windows. Just remediate those vulnerabilities in the first go. So I can do right from the dashboard. Now the vulnerabilities can be remediated right from the dashboard. If you click on the remediate button over here, it will be redirected to the operations page. So the rest of the flow remains same. What you would do is you will filter the data on the dashboard. You know now what is my priority, and you will remediate the data right from the dashboard. Same is applicable to the patches as well. So once you select a patch policy, you would be able to remediate right from the dashboard. The next one is a few more enhancements which are done with the vulnerabilities. Now, earlier the operating systems which were supported for vulnerability were Windows and Linux. Now you can manually map any kind of vulnerability remediation for all the operating systems. Let's say there are vulnerabilities which has been identified for AIX operating system. Now you can remediate for that vulnerabilities as well. The manual mapping will still work and the operations can be created. So now vulnerability remediation works for all operating systems. The auto mapping for patch is not going to work, but the manual mapping is still feasible. The next one, and very important, is the noise reduction. So now, since according to the vision, I have a single console for patch management as well as vulnerability management. So now, since I have a single console, is there any correlation between the two? So yes, the answer is yes. Now, when a patch policy is going to run, it will see that what are the vulnerabilities for which this is the patch, as this is the patch which is the remediation for that vulnerability. And if it finds such vulnerability, it is going to mark those vulnerabilities as closed. So this is an automatic process to reduce the noise in your environment. Similarly, if the vulnerability is remediated using the tool, so now the tool knows that you have installed a patch on a system, so it will update the patch policy and update the set of missing patches in your environment, because now it knows that somebody to remediate a vulnerability has installed that patch, which was on your radar for a regular patch cycle, but now it is already implemented, so it will go ahead and close that missing patch data. The next one is auto import of scan file. So what happens? So every day there is a new scan file which is generated from the scanners. It is very difficult as a user to import all those files manually in my system. If your process is just to import the data once in a month or once in 15 days, you don't need this process. But if you want to have the continuous vulnerability data to be imported in the system every day, logging in into the system, exporting the data from the scanners, importing it to the automation console becomes an overhead. Can we automate this process end to end? So yes, answer is yes. There is a orchestration workflow which has been built to automatically import the data. So you just need to pass on the URLs for the Nessus scanner. It will download the file from the Nessus scanner and import it to the automation console if you have passed on the credentials. So the entire process is automatic. You can specify the schedule. You can specify how old data do I want to import it to the system. The out-of-the-box workflow has been developed for Nessus, but can be easily replicated for rest of the scanners. Let's say, for example, instead of Nessus, you are using Qualys in your environment and you would like to make this process automated for Qualys, you can do that. You can update the existing workflow, and this is going to work as is for the other scanners as well. So next one is connector management. So we have the connectors are used to fetch the information from the different tools. Currently, there are 3 connectors which are available. One is TrueSight Server Automation for remediating the vulnerabilities, mapping the vulnerabilities assets and then remediating. The second one is Discovery, which is used for identifying the blind spots in the environment. What are the servers in my environment for which which are not even scanned by the scanners? Those are called blind spots. So Discovery gives you that information and the business context. So it gives you the business context, like business services are there in BMC Discovery, so which we automatically import that data into the system using Discovery. So that this is an optional connector. If you want to enable, if you have Discovery in your environment, you can enable this connector. And the third one is TrueSight Orchestrator. The TrueSight Orchestrator is used for 2 use cases. One is change integration, where you would like to when you would like to create a vulnerability remediation, do I want to wait for an approval before the remediation actually gets executed? For that integration, the TrueSight orchestration is being used. The out-of-the-box workflow works with Remedy ITSM, can be customized for other workflows, for other ITSM tools such as ServiceNow if you are using. The other use case which TrueSight Orchestrator helps is auto-importing the vulnerabilities. So like you saw in the last slide, if you want to auto-import the vulnerabilities, there is an orchestrator workflow which can be consumed, and that's why we need this connector. So TrueSight Orchestrator and Discovery are optional connectors. TSSA is the mandatory connector. So service account, which is being used for automatically refresh the data on the system, is part of the TSSA connector, and you would see as a toolbox at the top right corner. This also we are going to see in the demo. The next one is RSSO integration. RSSO integration is the default integration which is for all the BMC products. This has been enabled for the SaaS offering so far, which is Helix Vulnerability Management. In the upcoming releases, you will see that Remedy Single Sign-On is going to be available for on-prem automation console as well. And how does it help is the single sign-on capability helps in when you are managing more than one BMC products in your environment and you don't want your users to log in multiple times. So single sign-on is the capability, which is a single portal. You just log in once and then all the applications are registered over there and available to the users just to click and access the applications. With this, I will hand it over to Sumit for a quick demo for this capabilities.
Hello. Thank you, Meeta. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
I can see.
Okay. So thank you everyone for attending this webinar. I'll quickly show you a few features for the TSAT 2008. Please do note that I have a bit of an issue with my net connection, so if I disconnect, I'm sorry about that in advance. Having said that, let me start a few things. With this, I wanted to show you the first thing, which was granting exceptions, which Meeta already gave you a brief about. So for exception management, we already had it. So we've tried to put this in automation console as well. And with this, we can actually create an exception. Now, all we have to do is put in a name over here. So, for example, if we know which vulnerability it is, or we can put a name of the vulnerability, or if we would want to know that which patch we are talking about, we can simply put the patch name and do a search, do an advanced search on the CVID, do a search on the operating system, or do a search on the severity as well. We can select it individually from here, so it won't be, we can understand what it needs to be. You will also have the option of selecting individual assets which are assigned to this vulnerability. So you can select individual assets, or you can say all assets as well. The vulnerability you can put in the name. We can put in like HTTP sys as the name if we want to. You have the option here to make it a permanent exception, because some exceptions are permanent. You may not want to make any changes to those, so you can put it as a permanent exception, or usually an exception lasts for 15 days or something, depending on what your company policies are. You can also add a change ID request if there was a change request created to create this exception, and you can put in the owner information as well, that who created it or for whom it was created. The difference here would be is the permanent exception option that we've given here, but most of this thing is similar to what we already had in TSVM. And when we click save, we can actually see this exception right here along with the dates. And if you put in the owner information is also here. So as simple as that in trying to create exceptions here. Now, this would mean that when we try to run the remediation, those two servers will not show up during remediation because they have an active exception there. The other thing that I wanted to show you was tags. So in the previous releases, we had tags, and we would not display the tags. And importing the tags was from some other location. But since then we've replaced a few things and updated the UI. So from this release onwards, you can actually export all the server properties. So you can actually export the server property, and you can put it in a file, which would say that you want to save this file and open this file. So you can export this out and edit it. So for example, if I want to edit this particular file, I can edit this file and have a look at it. So I can see that there are some tags which are already there, and then some of them don't have any tags. The tags need to be added at the end, at the far end of the system, and there needs to be a semicolon if you want to add multiple tags. So you can now add multiple tags in the system at the same time. And we've also added a new display section wherein we can display the tags that we need to. Sorry. Yeah, my UI is acting a little different. Technically, you can actually put this and display the tag here. And then we can also import new tags. So if I have a file that I want to import more tags into the system, I can just say import the tag, and it'll show that the tag has been imported. And I can click on the services and business owner, and it'll show you the information on what what services are there, what business owner is there. The other thing what I wanted to show you was an update wherein we can actually we can add properties for VATs, for the vulnerability action records. So for updating the VATs, we have to do a couple of things. We have to do what we call as login. So we have to log into the system, wherein we are going to log in and try to retrieve a token from the environment. So as we get the token from the environment, we have to do a second thing, which is called as refresh token. This is for getting the longer version of the token that we have. So we will, oops, sorry for that. Okay. Once we get this particular token, we can then add what we call as vulnerability tagging. So we can add a vulnerability, and we can put in a CVID or name of a vulnerability, and then we can assign an owner and a risk score to it. So what would happen is that, for example, I want to send this particular request. So it accepted the request and created it. So I added this particular server on the vulnerability for the CVID. So I actually tagged it with, or I can say I changed the properties for it to Alan, and I changed the risk score to 0. And I also modified the SLA warnings if I want to. So those are some new things that have been added in this particular release for vulnerability, for the VATs that's there within the system. So I'll show you an example of what changed. With this release, we also have called as actionable dashboards. So if I have got a risk owner, like I put in the risk owner for Alan, and I clicked apply, the vulnerability, it would show me that it's remediated vulnerability to actionable vulnerabilities. And we can click remediate right over here. And we can say test remediation. You would see that this particular server, the one which was already defined over here, is added right now with the risk scorer as Alan. So this automatically, filtered the system and brought the vulnerabilities and the targets across over here. And, whether which patching it is, we can also look at the vulnerability, and it's through the risk owner. Just 1 second. And we can honor the patching, whether we want to restart. We can say now or execute now, or I'll do it later. Send any notifications. So the same thing, but the only difference is now it's actionable from the dashboard, and we can add properties for the VAT records like risk owner, and risk score. The other thing that I wanted to show you was the connectors. So we can go to the connectors right from here, and you can see that we've got a couple of connectors which are running. We can edit this connector right here. So one of the advantages of this release is that you can edit a connector for server automation without actually enabling it. So this gives you the advantage that, in case you change the password or you want to change the service user, and you want to change the collection method, you can actually edit this right before you try to put it into the system, or edit this if you have made a recent change into it. Now there is one recommendation here. Do not disable the server automation connector and log out. Because if you disable the server automation connector and log out, you will not be able to log back in because the connector is disabled and then you cannot do anything. Uh, the other thing that you have is that you've got the other two connectors as well, the orchestration connector and the discovery connector. Now, these two connectors, you will have to disable them to edit them, because if you don't disable them, then it won't work. So having said that, this is how you would create a discovery connector. You can see that it is a token-based connector, or you can see that it is based on descriptions. There is also a user connector. So sorry, there's a display issue here, but there is a username and password that also you can enter, and you can schedule the time with this connector as well. And once you configure anything, all you have to do is enable this. The RSSO integration that we have is actually only on the Helix platform. So it's only the SaaS version of the product that has the RSSO integration and is not available for the on-prem version. So that is one thing that you need to be also careful of. So Meeta, do we have any questions or anything for this? I think there is a question on if the operator has different vulnerabilities, can they work on those? So yes, I mean, if you can filter them down, you will be able to remediate right here. And then, for example, you want to go only for this particular server, or you want to go only for the other server. You can actually go into the advanced search and filter some, put in some more filters into the environment if you need to. So it's all about trying to, filter more, but you can do that. So any questions? You can select a particular and the operation would automatically go down. So yes, you can actually start with a larger set of the vulnerabilities and assets and then come here and reduce them as you need to. The other thing is that the dashboard also has the remediate feature. So the policy also can be remediated right from here. So if I apply the policy, I can do a remediation action from the dashboard as well. So it is not limited to vulnerability. You can also do the remediation for the patch policy as well. You can select the associated groups. Or if you want, you can go to the individual assets as well. So that's all I had for demo. Any questions or anything?
Sumeet, BDC has been updated with this new release?
BDC is being updated with this new release. There was a sample environment that was already given to the SCs. There has been some environments with SCs already have, but official release has not happened yet.
And what's the expected date?
Hopefully end of this week. But you can have access to the environment if you need to. I can share a copy.
So that would be helpful.
Hey, Sumit, there is a question from Greg. He's asking whether TSAC is built to fully utilize the token that is generated by RSSO. He says that Atrium Orchestrator or TrueSight Orchestrator was not fully utilizing, but he just wanted to confirm if TSAC does that. As far as I know, it does, but just wanted to have a confirmation.
No. There are two things. There is the TSAC, and then there is the Helix vulnerability management. So
Yeah, I mean Helix.
Helix vulnerability management does utilize the tokens, but yeah, need to check which exact token. Because one of the reasons why I showed you the Postman, wherein you had to do the token refresh, there is a token refresh that you have to do to get the longer version of the token, which is similar to what we have on the other side. So, yes, it does use tokens, but it had to be a bit more specific. Like, there are a couple of different types of tokens. Within TSA, there is a token and then there is a JWT token. So, yeah, we'll need to get into the details of which exact token you're looking for.
Yeah. And this is for Helix vulnerability management. The next one, which is going to be available, is for on-prem. But yeah, we'll make sure that this query is answered in that. Okay.
This release does not integrate the on-prem version with RSSO. So please do not expect that in any of the demo environments as well. So we're waiting for that on-prem version to integrate with RSSO in the next release or so. Any questions or concerns on what it is there? And yeah, Meeta already discussed this, but just to add, the integration with the Nessus scanner is customizable. You can add more scanners into it. We've created the first workflow on how the process should look like. We can customize those things. Or if you have any feedbacks on which scanners we should prioritize on, please do let us know, and we can do those as well. Okay, that's all I had for now. Meeta, do you have anything else that you would like to share?
I think we covered the what we really wanted to cover. One important thing is if there's any question which is not answered on the chat window, maybe you would like to ask now. Okay, seems like the questions are answered too. If not, or if you have any further query, you may reach out to your account managers, or you may reach out to myself or Sumit or Olivier, and we'll get the answers for you. That's it. Over to you, Sumit and Olivier.
Thank you, Meeta. That's all I had.
Okay. Thank you all for listening in. Stay tuned at communities if you want. If you have any questions, you can post them there as well. Also, we will be posting the recording shortly as well, so you can review or share with colleagues or other coworkers. Thank you for dialing in.
Thanks again. Bye.